Gundam SEED Destiny is finally getting a sequel, and it only took about 20 years. What do we know about it so far? Let's find out. Welcome back to Gundam HQ. Today's topic, as I mentioned before, is the Gundam SEED Destiny sequel titled Gundam SEED Freedom. It's going to be a theatrical-length movie releasing in Japanese theaters on January 26th, so it's really not too far off. But I will give you a fair warning that this has been in development hell, which is probably a pretty grave understatement. But it's actually coming out. It's too late to cancel it now, so it's happening. We have a lot to talk about with this, but before we can get into any of the nitty-gritty, let's start with a basic plot summary so we can kind of contextualize everything else we're going to talk about. Basically, this is taking place in Cosmic Era Year 75, which is going to be about 1 or 2 years after the end of Gundam SEED Destiny. Amid independence movements and Blue Cosmos uprisings, Lacus, Kira, and other returning characters form a group known as Compass, which is some type of world peace organization. Think almost like Celestial Being from 00, but in a sense, Celestial Being was kind of based off of the idea of the Archangel, running around kind of doing its own thing. So you can really just compare it to itself, I guess. A group known as the Foundation propose a joint operation with Compass in order to flush out the rest of Blue Cosmos and wipe them off the map permanently. It'll only be our third attempt at doing that, so we'll see how successful that one is. And lastly, what we know so far, Kira might act as an antagonist for part of the story. As mentioned in a few of the trailers, we have characters like Lacus, Mulaflaga, and so on that are pretty buddy-buddy with Kira, commenting about how they have to stop him. So, what's going on with that? I don't really know. I've got some ideas, I've got some theories, but we'll save those for the end. So next up, let's take a look at some of the returning characters and designs that are confirmed to be coming back this time around. We obviously have Kira Yamato himself, Lacus Klein, Athrun Zala, Kagaliu the Atha, Shin Asuka, Luna Maria Hawk, Mayrin Hawk, Maru Ramius, Mulaflaga, Izak Jewel, Diarca Elsman, and even the Destiny Black Tri-Stars that weren't around too long, but it's nice to see them come back. Some of these designs are actually kind of cool, some are a little bit mixed. One of the ones that really stands out to me would be Mayrin. I'm not sure why she's dressed like some kind of mom. I don't know. Maybe she's sitting this one out. She's not fighting this time around. No idea. And then, of course, we even have a few new characters that are coming around this time. The most important friendly kind of character seems to be Agnes, who is part of Compass and will be fighting alongside some of our main characters. Lastly, we have a couple new Compass officers and then an orb representative of some kind that looks like a child. I don't really know what's going on with him, but yeah. And lastly, of course, we have the Foundation. These are the guys that we mentioned earlier who are supposed to be teaming up with Compass at the very least at the start of the story in order to take out Blue Cosmos. They definitely have a very royal vibe, and we even see that in some of the trailers where some of our main characters are bowing to them. So we'll kind of see what that's all about. Definitely get a little bit of a sinister vibe from these guys. I'm sure many of you do as well. So I can't imagine they're going to stay friendly too terribly long, but who knows. Lastly, we have some new mobile suits coming out that are confirmed. Obviously, first and foremost, we have the Rising Freedom Gundam, which is going to be going to Kira. There are no Dragoons this time around, it seems, but his shield seems like it might be remote controlled. And then its design seems like some kind of mix between the Freedom Gundam and the Destiny Gundam. You can notice that with its arms and the rest of the body structure. And then the mouth no longer has the two vents, similar to the Destiny and other older Gundams. So, not sure what's going on with that, but it's kind of interesting, to say the least. And then we have the Immortal Justice Gundam, which is obviously going to be going to Athrun, because he can't go a show without a Justice, just like Kira can't go a show without getting a Freedom of some kind. It seems like a mix of a bunch of different aspects from Athrun's previous suits, with obvious main inspirations being the Justice and the Infinite Justice, who would have guessed. And then one last notable thing for both of these two is they both come with a transformation that's pretty similar to each other. It gives me a pretty strong vibe of the Wing Gundam, I'm not entirely sure how I like these designs, but maybe I'll grow a little more fond of them as we watch the movie and as time passes, but for now they're a little bit off to me. Then we have what's probably the most disappointing new design, that being the Force Impulse Gundam Spec 2, which is almost identical to the standard Force Impulse Gundam that we already saw in Destiny, and we've been seeing for the past 20 years. The pilot is going to be most likely Shin, but I don't think there's any real confirmation so far, so I guess we might have to wait to see on that one. But like I said, why are we mostly completely reusing this design? The colors aren't even notably different. Then we have the Gelgoog Menace, which is going to be for Lunamaria this time around. It has both space and flight packs, and I'm really kind of a fan of this one. I think it might be one of my favorites from the movie so far. Then lastly, we have the Gian Storm, which is most likely going to be piloted by Agnes, one of those new characters I mentioned. The reason a lot of people think that is that her pilot suit and this mobile suit both have kind of matching colors. But a lot of people online are kind of arguing between whether or not they think Agnes is going to pilot the Force Impulse or Shin is going to pilot this. I think it makes the most sense to speculate that Shin's going to be in the Impulse and Agnes is going to be here because of her pilot suit, and also Shin's already known for piloting the Impulse. It's a lazy decision, I know, but that's just kind of how it is, I guess. I don't know. Then lastly, we have the Black Knights. These guys are going to be the mobile suits for the Foundation. I imagine kind of the design theme behind these is that they're not really supposed to look anything like Zaft or Earth Alliance. They're kind of supposed to be their own thing. So I imagine that's why they're so different, but also so repetitive in their designs. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I would hope that they would be a little more unique from each other, but it's okay. It's serviceable and it does the job. And then lastly, from my understanding, we don't have a name of it yet, but there is a new battleship this time around for Compass. It looks like a nice little mix between the Archangel and the Minerva and how it's kind of structured, and also a little bit inspired by maybe some old Universal Century type of battleships. I don't know. I kind of like how it looks. I guess we'll get a better look of it in the movie, though. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a new Gundam release if we didn't have a bunch of different Gunpla to go along with it. Some of the ones we've seen so far would be the Rising Freedom, Immortal Justice, a couple of the Black Knights, and then the Gelgoog Menace, all HGs. And then we have an RG Force Impulse Spec 2, and even an SD Rising Freedom Gundam. I'm sure we're just going to end up seeing more and more and more of those, so I wouldn't be too concerned about saying this is a limited selection by any means. We'll get like 40 releases over the next 2 years, I'm sure. And lastly, Gundam SEED wouldn't be Gundam SEED if we didn't have that soundtrack. We have some really influential groups coming back this time around. TM Revolution, Nami Tamaki, and Seesaw. You might recognize them from multiple of the openings, closings, insert songs, and so on from all throughout the franchise, so it's really great to see them come back for the new movie. So now that we've covered all the kind of factual stuff we know for sure is going to be happening this time around, let's kind of look into the trailers a little bit more and maybe speculate a little as far as what's actually going to be happening this time around. I tried to structure them in a way that makes the most sense to me, in the sense of these events are probably happening in this order, but maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments below. For starters, I think a great question to ask is Compass connected to Zaft officially, or is it its own separate thing? I think we can probably guess that it is, based on the uniform similarity between Compass and Zaft, but it is a different uniform, so it could be separate. But of course, we did last see Kira and Lacus joining up with Zaft at the end of Destiny, so I don't imagine them jumping ship too soon after joining them, but who knows. Then we have one of our first looks at the new movie, with Lacus leaving for some kind of prolonged amount of time, and Kira giving Lacus a blue birdie as she leaves, just like Athrun gave one to Kira when they were kids. And it seems like she's going up to visit Plant based on the other scenes we've seen. Maybe she has some kind of important business there. Then our characters seem to meet up with the Foundation, and the Foundation, like I said, is already confirmed to offer some kind of agreement, some joint operation, in order to deal with Blue Cosmos once and for all. And that ties into most of the fighting we've seen so far. we often see a lot of different Earth Forces machines running around and we're taking them out. So I imagine that would be Blue Cosmos, and we're working together with the Foundation at this time. And most of these shots with that fiery city setting seem to all be coming from the same battle, so I assume we can't assume that we're going to be cooperating with these guys for the rest of the movie, because we only really seem to cooperate with them at this one fight. Then, of course, we get to see Orphe, I believe that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, the new blonde guy from the Foundation, attempting to kind of woo Lacus and kind of bring her over to his side maybe, or try to flirt with her. Don't really know for sure. I assume he has some kind of ulterior motive. And in my kind of theory, it kind of adds to Kira's desperation to end the fighting, because he mentions, somebody has to do it, somebody has to stop this. And then it probably adds to him being a little more uneasy and susceptible to manipulation by the Foundation. That rhymes. That's kind of a sick lyric, I'm not gonna lie. And the reason I mention that is, as we know, Kira's going to be turning bad in one way or another and kind of going against most of our other characters in Compass for whatever reason. And I imagine it's not quite that simple. So I would kind of guess that the Foundation might be trying to use Kira in one way or another, trick him, manipulate him, control him. And a big part of why I think that is they make a big point of pointing out Kira's red eyes in these trailers. It's not like they're permanently red. They're only red when he's acting up like this, when he's kind of being villainous. So I imagine there's something else to it. What that is exactly, I don't know. So I think it's pretty safe to say that there's something else to it. And we haven't met any new substantial villains this time around, other than what I assume will be the villains in the Foundation. And then we see Atherin dressed out of his mind in the coolest outfit imaginable, probably undercover, likely investigating the Foundation. Atherin later reveals that the Foundation wants to make some kind of species that surpasses coordinators. I think this kind of ties into what I was mentioning before, because I wouldn't be surprised if the Foundation, for whatever reason, is targeting Kira for being the ultimate coordinator. For people that don't remember that, it's a big deal that Kira's the ultimate coordinator because he's the only coordinator that was produced with an artificial womb, which removed the mother's influence on the child, therein making it so they could perfectly alter whatever genes they wanted to. And that sounds like a pretty solid setup for creating a perfect species. Additionally, we also see a kind of sinister looking blonde man at one point. I would guess this is probably Rao or Ray being shown, as we have Chairman Durandal speaking over them. This might tie into their plan as well, with genetic manipulation and cloning kind of going hand in hand. So maybe. So my final guess is going to be that Kira is in some way brainwashed or manipulated into helping the Foundation create the next step in evolution. Our characters kind of ultimately realize this, and Compass, Zaft, and Orb likely come together to stop them in one way or another. Freedom as a title might even kind of relate to Kira being controlled in that sense, as in he's freeing himself from their control. I don't know, that's kind of my best guess as to what the title would mean. Obviously, Freedom also just kind of means it's Kira's movie, it's about Kira, and Kira always pilots a Freedom. Freedom Gundam, Strike Freedom Gundam, and now this new one. Let me know if you think my theory is kind of on point or if I'm way off the mark. I think it's a pretty solid guess, but I guess I'll be proved right or wrong one way or another pretty soon. And lastly, I do have one more thing to say. I'm not going to comment on it too much just yet, and I'll give you a warning before I say anything. But apparently there is a leak of the Chinese version of the movie, and apparently it's out there somewhere. I've seen a few screenshots and whatnot, and they seem like they're kind of real, but I don't know for sure one way or another. I've only seen a couple. So I guess very briefly, we'll go over a couple things. So some of you that might want to avoid any type of spoiler might want to stop watching now. So thank you for watching. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you like this, and maybe even join our Discord. You can find the links to all that type of stuff down in the description. Again, thank you for watching. I'll be doing some more videos, hopefully about Gundam SEED and whatnot, coming up pretty soon here. But for everyone else, so far it seems like we might be getting a new type of Destiny Gundam for Shin. I've seen a few different designs out there. I don't know how substantial these ones are, so take them with a grain of salt. But the main other leak that I've seen is a couple of these new screenshots of Lacus in some kind of really ugly pilot suit, piloting whatever this new machine is. Yeah. I don't really know what to make of this. I don't know how this is supposed to fit into the plot based on my kind of theories. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of these. I kind of hope this is fake, I'm going to be honest. But now you've seen it. And the last leaked screenshot that I've seen personally would be this one. It looks like the Rising Freedom is accepting a It looks like the Rising Freedom is accepting a hyper-deuterion. It looks like the Rising Freedom is accepting a hyper-deuterion. Oh my god. It looks like it's getting the beam that they shot Impulse with. Okay, I'm done. I've tried 5 times. I'm done. Anyways, this kind of seems to imply that the Rising Freedom is no longer nuclear powered, which was a very big deal for the Freedom and the Strike Freedom, as well as Atherin's suit to go along with it. So I would imagine the Immortal Justice is also no longer nuclear powered. The only reason that I could think this would be is maybe Compass has come to some kind of agreement wherein nuclear powered mobile suits will be taken off the market, as in to level the playing field and keep these extremely powerful weapons out of everything in order for people to feel more safe and less obligated to fight. That would be my only real guess that I can think of. It sounds like something these lovable, peaceful morons would do. So I think that in particular has some very interesting connotations as to what the story might be about and the power struggles that this could potentially create. I'm sure if you really wanted to dig, you could probably find that full leak somewhere on the internet. But I think it's probably best if we just wait a few days, because it should be out pretty soon here. So that kind of covers it. That's the vast majority of the things we know about the upcoming release of the movie. So thanks everyone for watching. As I said before, please consider leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel. It really helps. I don't have any monetization as of right now, so it certainly would not hurt to kind of send the algorithm my way a little bit. As always, thank you for watching, and this is Gundam HQ, signing off.